All right. On that nice note, welcome to the Shenanigans podcast. As you guys know, this podcast is really bringing the locals of Czech Republic, Prague, specifically, and trying to discover the stories behind each people that contribute to the society here, but also get to discover interesting stories, interesting paths that some people can take, which brings us today with our special guest, Sahand. Thank you very much for being here today. By day, he's a project manager working in Prague conference scene, and by a few nights, more of a hobby, I guess we can say that. You'll find him in a very different setting on stage, testing out stand-up comedy. Sahan, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. Happy to be here, Loic.
On such a
Lovely weather
beautiful day.
today, so
Yeah, we really can't
yeah,
complain about that.
yeah.
Yes, we have been rehearsing the part of the weather quite a few times, haven't we? Doesn't feel natural right now, does it? Well, I think let's start off with pretty much an introduction so that the audience get to better understand you. So, you know, I know that you've moved from Iran to now living in Prague, but can you tell us a bit about the story? How did this even happen in the first place?
Okay, so yeah, I moved to Prague back in 2019 in November. Yeah, and the reason that I moved to Prague was out of some luck, some chance, and a lot of work. I had different couple of different options for just moving, and my plan was to start living somewhere other than Iran to just experience war there a little bit better. I always wanted to uh, exchange with other nations and other cultures. That's something that's being
Okay.
from an Iranian Iran. It's not always how do you say accessible to all people. I was lucky to had the opportunity to come to Prague. Honestly, Prague was a stepping stone. It should have been a stepping stone, but I came here and I decided to stay. It's a lovely city, and I don't know if I answered your questions, but here we are. Came here at 2019. Thought I will be here for 2 or maybe 3 years. It's 2025, and still
Time
loving
flies,
it. So
time flies. But
yeah.
on that case, because and I completely understand you being French originally and now living here. What was that element, if any, there might not be, and it just happened that you decided to stay here much longer? But what would you say made you think, okay, you know what, Prague is home now? Was there an element, firstly, and if so, what was it?
Before I came here, it was not really something that I was considering for long term, at least.
Okay.
But the process of making my decision to, because you have done it, so as a Western,
Yeah.
it might be much easier for you to live in another country,
That's a fair point, yes.
at least when it comes to bureaucracy, whatever. But for me, it was a little bit more working and a lot of preparation that was needed to do. And when I came here and started living in Prague, little by little, I found out that this is a place that I can see myself for long term. And Prague is something special in Europe, I believe, because honestly, it's not that small that you feel you're in a small
Like a
part
village
of the
kind
world and
yeah.
you don't have access to a lot of options that a big city
Mhm.
can give you, and also it's not as big as Berlin or something. That's I really don't like it. It's basically in the perfect middle-sized city that I really love. You have options. It's an international city. There are thousands and thousands of expats living here. Um, the people, although the stereotype is that Czechs
Go on.
are how do you say are cold or not welcoming. Apart from their language, I think Czechs are one of the more welcoming people that I've seen.
Oh, that's beautiful
Yeah,
to hear.
yeah, they're not like French. So
No, I have to agree on that one. I won't even take it personal. It's a fair point. It's a fair
no,
point.
I'm just joking.
I mean, there's definitely some areas in France where I would say we're a bit cold on the welcoming, but I guess it's a cultural thing, and I definitely agree with you. And I find it interesting that the elements of you were mentioning the bureaucracy, which I will just say to anyone who is listening to us, if you are working in the bureaucracy, industry sector, I don't know what's the correct word, please feel free to reach out. We have a lot of questions to ask you, I believe.
I think it's happening everywhere, but
Exactly.
yeah, it's
But
happening everywhere.
it feels like they all have like one center control because they have a similar approach regardless of where you might be. At least just an opinion, right? Now, bringing it back to what makes your story, at least recently, because that's already bloody insane to just think that you went from Iran to here. It's a huge jump in itself, right? But here's a second one, the twist, because as we mentioned before, the work in which you are in today, but you pretty much initially started in civil engineering. Now you're managing international conferences, a full-time job, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And one day you just decide to jump into a hobby, I would say, stand-up comedy. How did that happen?
Okay, and it's from outside. I understand it is one day.
It feels like it.
Yeah,
Right?
this guy was doing conferences last week. What the fuck is happening? Yeah, it looks like that, but it's a little bit longer story. But let me go through it. So, comedy for me has been always something that I was interested in, especially stand-up comedy. It started with sitcoms when I was
Okay.
much younger in '90s. So that gives out my age, but okay. But so as I think maybe it would be good for your audience to know. So although Iran is a really isolated nation right now, but the Western media and TVs are getting there as any other countries, I think with the exception of North Korea. But but we had Western TVs, sitcoms from US mostly, and from a young age I really loved them, and the comedy scene slowly grew in me. Is it? It was a little bit phrased
It
weirdly. Grew on me, yeah.
Yeah.
English is my second language. Come on. so so it started with sitcoms actually. So with Friends, Jerry, Seinfeld, and slowly, even when I was in Iran, I was just thinking about what if I could do this in other places. In Iran, it's not really, it's getting there, but there is no comedy club per se.
Okay.
Technically, there is no clubs, but when I came here, actually, it was one of the first things that I did was to go to see a stand-up comedy in Prague.
Okay.
Which back then I think it was just a starting. Right now it's much bigger scene, and we have a comedy club here that's do shows every day, so
Okay.
it's fun. So yeah, from there, slowly my plans with just moving to Europe and Prague was, as everybody else, was disrupted with pandemic.
Yeah,
so
the COVID,
so I just arrived at Prague, and the initial plan was to start doing comedy as soon as possible. So that's why I was going to the Velvet comedy shows or back then. And then pandemic happened for 2 years, so it wasn't that easy for everybody. But for me, because I just came here and I was completely
You were the new
alone,
person,
and
yeah.
I was,
Yeah.
and it was not enough time to shape up any social group around myself. So, apart from a couple of friends that I made maybe in 3 months before pandemic, which all of them were Europeans, and obviously they went back home and they wouldn't stay at Prague. So it was 2 years of that. Then after that, with that, there was also some mental health issues that came during pandemic. A lot of people went through it. And after that happened, so maybe a year ago, when I just tried to find myself again and just calm down basically out of anxiety and all of depression that was happening in during 2020 till 2023, let's say that. And after that, yeah, I was lucky. There is a comedy scene here. It's quite easy to get into it. And again, from 2023, which I decided again to get back to it till 2024, master procrastinator here. So I procrastinated for maybe a year again. Then with the push of a couple of friends, I finally did it, and now here we are.
So your friends are the one who made that final push, but the idea was like a seed. It's been there for some time, quite some time.
Yeah. That was friends, and also uh,
An opportunity.
for me, honestly, personally, stand-up comedy has become a little bit of help as mental health for me also. It's I cannot really explain it that much
Oh, but
well
it's interesting.
because
It's interesting.
myself is I don't understand it that well, but the feeling that gives and the process of writing, and because my jokes is almost always about myself, my experience and things like that. So it's also a little bit. I think they say that's just repeating your problems, and it could help you. So I choose to do it in front of people, basically.
That's a self-reflection in its own way.
Yeah.
No, I think it's interesting. That's fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So you would say, in a way, comedy can help as well when faced with some form of psychological, I wouldn't say trauma or damage, because we're not going to go that far ahead, right? But I
Yeah.
mean, just it kind of gave you a sense of releasing some weight.
Yeah,
Okay.
at least for my experience. Obviously, this is not a obviously proved clinical
Yeah.
way of dealing
Waiting
with
for
your.
the scientists to just walk into
Yeah.
the room. Ah, we
Yeah.
have data.
It's not nothing like that. But for me, it helps. So
Okay.
and right now it's going well. So
And if
I will
you,
try to keep doing it. So.
that's brilliant. If
Yeah.
you don't mind me asking, because I feel we're maybe missing just that piece, and it's a stupid question, but the moment you put friends push you, you found a place that could potentially have you try. Is it for someone who doesn't know anything about stand-up comedy? Is it just you go up to a stand-up comedy show and you say, "Hey, can I give it a shot?" And they tell you, "Yeah, you've got 2 minutes," and you go on stage, or is there some sort of step that you take to have that first time on stage?
Here in Prague, it's I think almost every other cities they have these open mics. They call it open mics,
Yep.
which is open to public. Basically, if you feel funny, just go up there and tell your set and see what happens. That's basically it.
And you've got like a time limit?
Yeah,
or is-
yeah. Usually it was. I think for my first it was 3 minutes, which is the first time that I understood 3 minutes. How long is it? 3 minutes
Well,
talking.
if I can jump on that, because we're literally just going to the next question, which is how was it that first time you did, I wouldn't say your first show, but the first time you went on stage, that's the correct word. How did it feel, the nerves, the crowd, the people?
It was my first set. There is this comedy open mic on Mondays happening in Tikavo here in Prague, and it's show up and go up basically. And
Did you prepare some jokes before?
yeah, actually I read the jokes, so I still sometimes do it. Just for disclaimer, I am still quite new to comedy. I am no expert on that topic, but it was quite. First of all, I don't remember what I said at all, so that's something that's. And I think I don't have even the note that I made. It was basically it was quite. Before you go, it's quite. How do you say?
Nerve-wracking?
Yeah, nerve breaking, and you get anxious. At least I got anxious. I'm not a public speaker at all. I've never done things like that, going on a stage and talking to a. Maybe the most I've done is in front of a classroom. That's it.
He is on the podcast
every-
with 3 cameras pointing at him.
Yeah, everybody done that. But then there is also after you do it, there is basically for me it was some sort of feeling of the pressure relief. It was something that I was thinking about doing it maybe for 10 years, and for whatever reason I was just not doing it. I say, okay, let me do it. And I think it's for anything, when you do something that you really wanted to do, and even if I fucked it up, which I don't remember, I think I got one laugh, which I put it in as a win.
How many people were watching? One?
No, I think there were maybe 5 or 6 people in the room.
Hey,
Yeah,
that's still
yeah.
something.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but it was quite nervous, a lot of thought going through your mind. But when you get on the stage, for me, it was just reading what I've written for as a jokes, and it was relatively successful because I'm still doing it. I think.
Yeah,
I'm,
that's it.
I have something. So
And you decided to continue just why? Because it felt you've had a form of joy. Because you were mentioning the nerve and how you don't even remember what happened, which I can visualize that it must have been the stress that took over on that aspect of the first one, which is completely respectable. But would you say in that case it was more you came out stage and you went, you know what, I like this. I actually enjoy it much more than I had initially maybe thought about. And then you decide to continue, or was there maybe someone that laughed at your joke that said something to you and said, "Oh, you should do this more often"? Your friends, or what was that extra push that said, "You know what, I'm going to continue this as a hobby, but still"?
yeah. So the thing was that when for me personally again, so when I do I'm on stage and make somebody laugh, it's a lot of joy for me, for whatever reason. So somebody should, probably a psychiatrist should look into that, but I like it. So the appreciation, let's say, that the audience will give you, it's some sort of, let's call it a drug. It feels really good. On the other hand, there is another side of this story. When you bomb, it's really really painful, and you know what I'm talking about. When you go on the stage and you worked on
Yeah,
something
doesn't
that you
work.
thought
Yeah,
it's really
yeah.
funny, people are going to laugh their ass off. So and you said
Over-expected and
that's
nothing.
quiet as well. And that's also, I think there's a rush in it, so probably that. But overall, the reason that I'm keep doing it is because it helps me. It's a good hobby, at least as of right now. I'm trying to get better. There is, how do you say, the idea that okay, if I get better and better and get, so right now maybe I have 15 minutes of comedy. Okay, if I keep doing it, maybe it will end up something, but who knows?
And if we look at the jokes themselves, we're going slightly off script, but I'm enjoying I'm enjoying your point of view on this. But when it comes to the jokes themselves, we're not going to reveal your secrets. It's not the goal here. But more, is there a comedian you look up to or that you identify that your way of approaching humor is more correlated to that kind of comedian, or not at all? This is really, you feel like this is purely your material. Like, I'm not saying in any way that you're stealing the material. No, I'm just saying, is there one person out there, big stand-up comedian, that you kind of look up to that supports the way you approach your jokes?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of different comedians that I like. So the names are, they're much more talented comedian that you look up to them and you follow them as basically as role models. That at least in joking,
Yep.
not all comedians are really good role models. My favorite comedian is Louis C.K. So
I think everyone knows him very well.
so, but
It's a type of
he's
humor.
brilliant. He's brilliant.
Yes,
But
bro.
there were different styles of comedy. That's obviously I'm not stealing jokes and telling jokes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not like that. But honestly, I don't know how to. If I am most definitely I'm copying somebody. That's I've seen it and their style of comedy. But really, in my mind, I cannot give up with a name that's okay. I'm doing comedy in the style of whichever comedy in.
There's some form of influence.
Yeah,
but at the end, it's
obviously
still your
there's some
material, yeah.
form of influence. I think maybe because my jokes are not a storytelling.
Yeah.
You know, the comedians that are telling the story that's funny and is going on and on. I'm mostly talking about myself and short jokes. So yeah, it's like that.
But
Um,
all your jokes are pointed towards you. So you're telling your own kind of life story behind it in a way?
Mostly about myself and being an Iranian. So
Okay.
because it would have been a miss not to use my background
I was
for
about
comedy.
to say, yeah.
So I have to mention it. It's okay. I'm an Iranian and I'm doing comedy. So the audience always okay. There are different people that are in Prague, at least, that's doing comedy, but they're mostly Europeans.
So you bring the contrast, I'm guessing,
yeah,
between
they're
the
mostly,
Iranian and the, oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
exactly. So I couldn't go up on the stage and say, "Yeah, my name is Sahand. I'm from Iran," and don't make any joke about that and continue on that and talk about I don't know uh, my life in Prague. It's um, it's a miss. How do you say opportunity? At least in
Yeah,
comedy wise.
yeah,
So obviously I make jokes about Iran, about myself, being an Iranian.
there's really no filters, I see.
Oh, no. Here no, but
I love it.
if I go back home,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
will be a lot of filters. Yeah.
Hopefully. And well, I mean, first of all, thank you very much for going into the details on that. I know that we've asked some questions that weren't necessarily there, but I feel it's interesting to understand what's the thought process behind it, what's the actual pillars that that you are being supported by that's bringing you into that direction from a mental kind of point of view, right? And to close it off, because I think we have plenty of good information, rich information here, and thus towards our audience. I don't think you're the first person, and I surely hope you're not the last person who is in a position where they want to step out of their comfort zone, try something new. It could be, for example, stand-up. But I'm not going to ask your opinion on going for climbing Mount Everest, so let's stick to stand-up comedy. But for anyone who keeps talking themselves out of it, any advice from your experience that can maybe help them take that first step and stick with it?
Ooh, I'm not a good person to give advice, but let's try it.
Your own opinion.
Let's see what happens. Well, I think at least the thing that I learned maybe for the past year and a half that I started do comedy is that I learned myself is that it's because before I do it, I was really working towards how scary it will be, and what if I go and be bad or things like that. I am still bad, but the thing is that the shadow of mindset that I had that if you don't try it, you will not lose.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
if I don't try it, I will not lose, and that was something that I had to overcome. And I think the sooner that you reach that mindset that it will not be the end of the day or my life if I try something, I just try it. So if you have the opportunity, if you want to do comedy and you live in Prague or any big city in Europe, there are open mics, and worst case scenario, you will not do it again. So there is basically how do you say win-win situation. At least you
There's
either
no risk.
either you tick off that I tried this and I sucked at it. Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Try again. Probably you will be better. So that's something.
I still suck
Yeah,
at it.
yeah.
Alright.
But there is no risk on trying. At least maybe there is. I don't know. But if you
I
have the
agree.
opportunity, this is again. I'm telling this after not doing it for 9 years. So so
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get
But
my
exactly,
point.
but you were
It's-
holding yourself back. And
Yeah,
there we go.
This is
That's the kick.
maybe one of the thing that helped me also going back to mental health is it's don't I at least personally now this is becoming a therapy session, so that's not good podcasting, but in any case the thing is that when I started to do it, it's the shadow is gone, and then for next step it will become much less scary for me, at least. So the next idea that I have, it will not take 9 years for me to do it. It will take 5 years. So that's
I
it.
love that. I
So
love that.
that's it.
I love that.
Maybe if there is an advice in this rambling thing that I went through, so take it or I don't know. Probably leave it is better.
No, but I love what you just said, that nothing's gonna happen. Just try.
Yeah, at least for stand-up comedy. Mount Everest, I don't
No,
think.
that's
Mount
is
Everest,
risk.
you need preparation.
Please
so
reach out to professionals before
Yeah.
taking on such a leap.
So-
We are not condemning the idea.
yeah, something easy.
One last question, if I may. You do this as a hobby for sure, but I mean, I think it's fair to say that you're quite a humble and funny person in itself. I mean, just hearing your story, I love that self-reflection that you bring in, form of humor that you bring in as well to it. Is there a place where we can potentially see you? Not necessarily dates, but a place you go to often where we might be able to see you in Prague for those listening?
Yeah, I'm doing comedy almost every week in Prague. So in Prague, you there is this club, Metro Comedy Club, they are doing great comedy shows, I think every day of the week. So you can probably find me there. And yeah, that's it. I don't have any LinkedIn. Oh, sorry, any Instagram right now. I'm not really good with social media. But probably sooner or later I will make an Instagram for my comedy shows. And right now you can follow me on LinkedIn then. So
Okay, well, we'll have the name of the venue mentioned as well in the description. Check out, in that case, his LinkedIn profile. I thought I'd say this on a social type of podcast, but okay.
yeah, I'm
Sahand,
a professional
thank you
comedian. So
I love it. I love it. So thank you so much for being here, and
thank
thanks
you
a
for
lot for
having
sharing your
me.
story.
And I'm going to enjoy a beer.
All right, sounds like a good plan. All right, take care, guys.
Bye.
And to our audience, make sure to follow, subscribe. You know the drill. Thank you very much for listening to us, and then we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.